Welcome back to Crafting a Meaningful Life. I'm your host, Mary Crafts, and every week we get to bring something to you that I think helps you find your path through this life and find your path so that you can craft this absolutely most meaningful life. So when you get to the end, as I'm not at the end yet. I've got another 35 years. I plan to live to be 105. But as you get to more on this side of it, you can look back with this joy and this fulfillment and say, I've had the best life. And isn't that really what we all want? To leave this legacy of love, to absolutely discover this best self within us. And so I always am looking for guests to help me come to that point. And that's why today I'm bringing to you this beautiful, beautiful woman named Heather Eck. Heather, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to connect with you. I'm so happy to be here.
So let's start with telling my listeners you tell yourself a little bit about you and what brought you to this point, because the curious question that we all have is, behind you are all these paints, all this color. I sometimes wear black on the show. And as I was getting ready to come on, I went, wait, Heather's about color. I have to grab my colorful scarf. So I wore a lot of color, don't get me wrong, but I didn't have any today. So, I have to put my colorful scarf on so that she knows I connect with color as well. So let's start there and tell us about yourself.
Absolutely. I do love that you connect with color. I can see it all over your website and everything. It's awesome. I am a visual artist based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. And one of the things about the art that I make is that I see and sense color around people and in spaces. And so when I create a painting for someone, it's a reflection of what I see in their spirit or in their aura that tells a story about where they might be dwelling in their body, mind, or spirit. And so a lot of the paintings that I make are, commissions for people based on how they show up in the world through the colors that they represent.
Okay, I want to go back right there to when you said you actually can see people's auras around them. I have experienced that. But I don't talk about it very much because not a lot of people, they think I'm a little woo-woo. I talk about, I'm looking at this extra piece that's out around them that is always full of light and color. So tell me what you see and that I'm not crazy.
Yeah, you're not crazy. It is actually a form of something called synesthesia. Synesthesia is where your senses get crossed. It is, it's something that about 4% of the population have, where they can see or sense color, or they're, like if you say, the days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, some people see it as a color. For me, like you, if somebody's just standing there in front of a white wall or something, I'll start to see color billow out around their heads.
Yes,
and I can go,
absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I love that you can see that too.
So when you first realized that you had this 4% of the population gift, what did you think? I mean, what did you imagine you were going to do with this?
So I didn't know what was going on, honestly, and I started working with a spiritual teacher, and I was kind of at this point where I felt very strongly that I needed to leave human resources, that I needed to be doing something different. And when she and I sort of delved into what was I like as a child and where are my gifts showing up for me, it really kind of came out that it was art and creative expression, and that these were parts of my gifts that were showing up that were intended to help me. And I was just kind of starting to become more open to them. And it's been growing ever since then.
I love that. So what do you do now with your art and with your study of color that you feel is of value to people and my listeners? And what are we going to learn today?
Mm-hmm. There's a couple different things. I think the primary thing is helping people understand that color shows up in their lives for a reason, and that you can work with the energy of color to help support your intentions and to create the kind of life that you want to live, I create spirit portraits for people. So I'll actually sit
Ah,
down with somebody. This is kind of cool, where I will read your colors and I'll tell you what your colors mean and what they're showing you. And I'll create a painting similar to the one that's behind me here that shows you where you're dwelling in your mind, body, or spirit, or your chakras, and how color can be healing for you to provide some balance and support. And so that's the primary thing that I do, is I show people where they're dwelling and how color can be healing for them.
you know, I think we're more synergistic than I ever would have guessed before. Okay, because growing up, my favorite color was always red, and I wore a lot of red. I did not like soft tones at all. But as I have grown up and as I have healed, it's interesting that I'm no longer. I have a few red things in my closet, but to be honest with you, they're much softer. Some of them are bold, but they're not red. They're like fuchsia, or like this kind of aqua color, or lime, or. But then the other day I stood back and looked at my closet as I was getting out my summer clothes and thought, well, there's a lot of pastels here. Huh? Whoever would have thought pastel? A lot of pink. I hated pink growing up, you know. And now I'm like, oh, I love pink. Pink is such a great color. So
Oh, I love that.
do we evolve through our colors, or what we are? And, you know, when we start with, do we stay with that? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. We definitely evolve through colors. And I think it's really awesome that you paid attention to that, that you actually have an awareness of where color was showing up for you in life. Because I think that's one of the things that I like to try to educate people about, is that you can read color too, and you can sort of see how it's ministering to you throughout different periods of your life when you need it to. So, for
Yeah.
example, if you said red was very prominent in your childhood, I don't know, much about how you grew up or anything, but red is strongly supportive of our sense of stability, strength, financial stability, our family, and the physical body. So if you're somebody who's bringing a lot of red to you, it's ministering to your need to feel grounded, supported, safe, that you're part of a tribe or community of people. And red is the most healing color for the body too. So that helps you feel like you're in your body and you're able to heal from any kind of physical ailment that is kind of plaguing you at the time
Yeah.
too.
I think
It's
growing
interesting.
up, I had that need for red because I felt very unseen, very unimportant, and I needed to claim that power piece in me and just be like, "Hi, I'm a red. I'm an A personality."
Yeah,
And I
totally.
used that color actually to be seen.
Mhm.
And when I began to see myself, is now that I think back on it, as I began to see myself, I less needed to wear red.
Mm. Wow. Do you know what color you kind of shifted to after that?
Well, I hate to say this, but it's kind of pink. It was pink, okay?
That makes sense.
Yeah. Just a
That
lighter,
makes sense.
softer version of red. Yeah, kind of
Yep.
crazy.
It's kind of awesome. I think that bright pink, that bold pink, is where we receive a higher love. And it's where we know that we're provided for and protected, and that we're seen and loved by not just the people here, but from a higher source, God, energy, spirit, whatever you want to call it, lets us know that we're seen, we're loved, unconditionally. And that's really beautiful that you went from that red to that pink. It's a higher vibration color, and it sort of moves you up that energy scale too.
And as you said, you had been on my website. As you know, the first thing you see is that bright fuchsia, pink, hot pink kind of, still very bold, but not red. There was something about red now that I really just shy away from. So, so as people want to know more about themselves, and there really is, at least in my circle, a a desire to constantly move forward, to understand ourselves more, to heal ourselves more, to be the entire light that we are. And I know there are circles that don't feel that way. That are just like, hey, this life is not about like woo-woo stuff. This life is about making money and blah, 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 and this and that, But in my circles, they are really always wanting to step forward. So as people are wanting to do that, how do we, I guess the question is how? How do we begin to understand the colors we're drawn to, the light that's within us, what we're sharing with the world? Because maybe what we're sharing with the world is not what we want to be about.
Mm-hmm. That's a really great question. I think for each of us, we sort of arrive at this point where you decide, I want to just kind of continue status quo, or I want to make a big shift and I want to do something different that helps support my spiritual level, or that helps me feel like I'm being called higher than I had been before. I think that's what it was for me. I felt like I was churning on a hamster wheel. I was making more money than I'd ever made before, but I was really an unhappy human when I got honest with myself and tried to figure out, like, is this what I want? And human resources is vastly different than art, but at the same time, I was learning how to care for people in that role. And that's what I do a lot in my artwork. And I agree with you. I think there are circles of people who call each other higher, who are like, we can do more, we can be more, we can help more people. And I wanted to be on that bus. I wanted to get on that bus and I wanted to keep moving down the road, So I think you have to decide, number one, that that's what you want. You want to be in that growth mindset. You want to be somebody who continues to challenge themselves and call themselves higher. And then you have to figure out what's your gift? What are you here to offer the world? Because it's really about how we are using our gifts in service of other people, and how we can help people and reach our hands back and say, come on with me. Let's go. Like, we can do this together. And so I try to do that through my art, and I try to do that through classes that I teach about how color supports us and how we can use art for healing, and how we can learn more about ourselves through the colors that we wear or the colors that we put in our homes, and how those things are communicating or ministering to us in a certain way, and developing an awareness about how we're being communicated to in our day-to-day lives.
The concept of being ministered to by color, that just intrigues me. And by the colors we put in our home and what we wear and in our artwork, talk to me about the ministration of color.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting when we choose to wear certain colors, or we put certain colors in our homes, they are symbolically, psychologically, spiritually telling us something. So, for example, I'm wearing this green shirt today, right? Green is a color of the heart. So I'm trying to be in a love space, right? I'm trying to be in a space of allowing myself to be as open and honest and loving as possible, and to show you that you can be the same with me. Because when we wear color, we wear it for both ourselves, or ministering to ourselves, but we also project that color out to the people that we encounter so that they can receive it too. And in our homes or our offices, if you walk into a space that's stark and cold, or lacks color, that it might feel off-putting. It might feel like there isn't a lot of energy in it. But if you walk into, like, IKEA, for example, you go into a space that's just emboldened by color, you instantly, or Disney World, you feel like, oh, this is so exciting. I feel energized. I feel happy. There's so many different ways that color shows up, and it tells us something, or it shows us something, and it makes us feel a certain way. And you can kind of start to pay attention to how you feel around color, and what that says about you, and how you can pay attention to your mind, body, spirit, and how you react to it too. It's interesting.
Ah, I love that. I'm just was thinking about my recent trip to Puerto Vallarta when you were talking, and about walking into the resort, and in the room, and it was so beautiful at the resort, because obviously the palm trees and the ocean and blah, blah, blah. But then you go into your room, and the blinds are, the shades are closed, and it's dark. And the first thing, no matter what room I go into, I go and I open up anything. I don't even want that little sheer thing. I just want, wow. And And then as I looked around the room, it was a tile floor and a white bedspread and brown furniture and beige walls. And I thought, I just felt, even though it was a lovely room, it did not lift my spirit. And so I began unpacking. This is crazy now that I'm thinking about this. I began unpacking, and rather than the usual thing of putting them in the closet and in the drawers, I began laying them on the furniture. And they were all, of course, summer colorful clothes. And John said, "Are you going to hang those up?" I said, I didn't know why I wasn't. I just needed these colorful clothes all around that room to greet me every time I came back in. That's wow. And now that I think about it, I do that all the time. Yeah. I just leave my mark wherever I go.
I think that's really cool too, right? Like you walked into this space and you're like, I think sometimes those hotel rooms are so white and tan because they're meant to be calming and they're meant for us as a place to sort of relax and restore. But at the same time, I love that you let out all this color everywhere so that you felt happy and energized. And you're like, I want to feel uplifted while I'm here. And my happy, colorful clothes make me feel that way. That's really cool.
So when people may not love a color on themselves, but they're drawn to it, I think about there's a whole tone of colors that just is not me. Like the olives, the khakis, the mustard, I feel like somebody has taken the energy right out of me when I wear those colors. And yet I love them. When I see them on someone, I'm like, oh, that is such a soothing color palette. Wow. I can't put it on me. So what is about that?
That's so funny. It makes me laugh because it makes me think of, did you ever watch that show, Grace and Frankie on Netflix?
Yes.
I always think about that because I love Grace because she's so polished and her style is so beige and cream and, all those neutral colors. And then Frankie, she's wild and colorful. And so I always think, I'm so attracted to the colors of Jane Fonda's character because she just always looks so put together. I love it. It's
so
beautiful.
Sophisticated. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, I want to be like Frankie. I want to wear the wild colors and the big jewelry, and I want to feel, excited and inspired by what I wear. So it's interesting, I think, when you are attracted to colors, it's something where there's something in that color that you appreciate about it. Like I really would love to feel sophisticated and look polished and look all together. But I also think there's something about the bright, bold Frankie colors that make me feel energized and excited. So it's kind of fun to watch how you react to different colors. But certainly if you're attracted to a color and you're wearing it or you're putting it in your home, there's something that color is giving you. And so for you, if it's pink and you're always drawn to pink, it's because you're seeking that higher love. You're seeking that reminder that you're always cared for and that you can be yourself and be loved unconditionally. And it's also energizing and it makes you feel playful and it makes you feel happy. And it offers you this feeling of life, of, live your life and be happy with it and be joyful. And that's that higher vibration color too.
I can't remember where I was traveling, but I was traveling somewhere. And when I came back, the Barbie movie had just been released. And I got ready to go to the gym. I have dozens of, fuchsia, hot pink workout shirts. I put one on. I went to the gym. And when I got there, like everyone's like, oh, are you trying to look like Barbie? I was like, what? I mean, has the world gone mad? And I had 4 or 5 people stop and say, I love your Barbie shirt. I'm like, what are they talking about? And when I got out of that, I, reached out to one of my good friends. I said, so what is Barbie? And tell me about that. And they was like, the Barbie movie, Mary. And everyone's wearing, I'm like, okay, I'm never wearing that color again. But,
that was a movement.
Yeah, it was. And of course, now I'm back to wearing that color again. But what's going on, like in our world, in our society, in our movies, and in our music, definitely influences our color, but that's different than colors that you own and that are yours. I think those who wore hot pink for about 2 weeks and just like, ugh, that wasn't
Yeah,
their color. But
it wasn't
people
their
who,
color. No.
yeah. And so when you want to use, I know you use color to heal. So that's what I want to spend the rest of our time talking about, is how do you use color to heal people's souls?
Hmm. There's something really interesting about when I do a spirit portrait for somebody where I see them dwelling. And for a lot, when I say dwell, it's not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just that you spend a lot of your time in that chakra or that energy center. So I'll tell a story of a recent portrait I did where I started to work on a gentleman's painting, and I picked red for him instantly. I saw red all around him. Red, of course, is a color of the root chakra, which is about the
Right.
physical body. And everything that happens throughout the spirit portrait is part of the reading and part of the painting experience. So how the ink goes down on the paper, the music that I'm listening to, all of the things sort of combine to complete a story. And for him, when I put the ink down on the paper, it formed a heart, but not a heart. It formed an anatomical heart. And I thought, that's so interesting. I'm so curious about that. And I almost didn't say something about it, but I felt like if I didn't, then I'd be leaving something out. So I just said at the end, I just feel like there's something about your heart, the physical heart, the body, have you had any concerns about it or what have you? And he said, oh my gosh, a couple of days ago, I had one of those heart scans that tells you whether or not you have blockages in your heart or not. And he said, and I got the all clear. But he had been so focused on his physical body and trying to heal his body that was pervasive around him. And so the other colors that I saw for him were related to his sense of identity. And also, I think there was orange in there, which is about creativity and expression and relationships and sexuality. And so he was really working on how he felt about himself, how he expressed himself, and how he saw himself. So those colors are going to be supportive for him. They're going to offer him a way of moving intentionally through his life by saying, okay, I want to use yellow so that I feel confident, optimistic, and I feel like I'm worthy of living the life that I want to live. The orange is going to help support him with expressing himself or creating new things. He's working on more books or classes or what have you. And then the red is a reminder of the physical body. It's a place where he really wants to improve and continue to develop. So it's kind of interesting. It's like a prescription of color for somebody that helps them. It helps support them in whatever area they need the most.
That is really interesting to me. So if you have areas in your chakras, and let's review those for people who aren't familiar with those. You have your crown chakra, which is the color, isn't that where the pinks are?
That's white and violet.
White and violet. Okay. And then you have your third eye chakra.
Yep.
And what color is that?
That's like an indigo or like a navy color.
Yeah. Yeah. And your throat chakra?
That's like a light blue, like what you're wearing on your scarf.
Oh, yes. Well, I knew that.
To support your
I needed to
throat.
talk today, yes, to support my throat, because I've been a little under the weather. I knew that. And then your heart chakra.
Yep, that's green and pink. So that's the two colors of the heart. It's the self-love and the higher love.
And the solar plex is...
Yep, that's your yellow.
And then, of course, your root chakra, which is...
And your sacral. Yeah, your sacral is orange and your root is red. So it's like a
sacral
kind of
orange.
like an upside down rainbow.
Yeah. All right. So this is my question. If you are drawn to a certain color, or you find yourself wrapping yourself in that particular color, is that because that's your strongest quality, or is that the quality that you would want to be working on to increase?
Yeah. It's more the latter. It's so if you reach in your closet and you pull out green or black or whatever it is, it's that color is what you're working on today. So you can kind of look at it as though you're drawn to this color, you need something from it.
Ah, wow. Okay. So, say for example, you just talked with this gentleman who was releasing a lot of energy from his heart chakra. And I remember when I was in the middle of working on my root chakra, that feeling of insecure, unstable, unsupported, never having a good base underneath me, being afraid of being knocked off my place. I really focused on that. And I brought a lot of red into my life, more than I already had. And then as I began to heal that chakra and feeling grounded and based, then I could just let that be and focus on the next one. So if people are totally unclear as to their chakras and the colors, how do they get to that point? How do they become aware?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are lots of tools out there where people can learn more about the chakras and what they mean. And just a quick Google search too will give you a list of what the chakras are and which parts of the body or the emotions they affect. So if you find that you are, like you said, you were feeling really unstable, you're feeling really uncertain, then you know that that's related to your root. What's interesting, and I love this, and I look at this a lot, is how your physical ailments are affected by the chakras too. So if you're somebody who has lower back pain,
absolutely,
you might feel unsupported. Yeah, and that's a root issue. So you can kind of pay attention to, where if you have high blood pressure, that's associated with anger, that's at the heart. So you got to work on what you're mad about. There's all sorts of different things and books. One of my favorites is by an author named Ina Siegel. It's called The Secret Language of the Body. And that she goes through the body. You're familiar with?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. And she associates a physical ailment with a color too, which is really interesting. So you can kind of see where your own symptoms are related to potentially a chakra issue or an emotional issue.
I've always said whatever it is I'm going to pass from this life, it's never going to be my heart. My heart is just like a workhorse. It's, I have a resting heart rate of 49. I can,
oh my gosh.
Even when I climbed Kilimanjaro, I was never winded. I mean, it's so good, my lungs and those things. But I had lower back pain. And in fact, I recently had back surgery on my lower back to get rid of all the extra calcium bone that my body was just laying down to give me support because I felt like so unsupported. Now, when I finally got to that point, it's crazy, I had already passed through that healing. Now I just needed to go back and remove what my body had done to respond to me. And it's been now about 2 months since I've had that removed. And I am feeling just amazingly better. And that was old stuff. I mean, that feeling like I was unsupported and having the weight of the world on my back, those were from decades past, not now. But it was still affecting me. And so the awareness of how I wanted to heal that. And now I'm just up and about and doing my thing, and it's no longer tying me down just to be unsupported.
Yeah. I love that. You really have such a strong awareness of yourself and your spirit, and I think that's the biggest thing, honestly, is just paying attention. I think a lot of us just bulldoze through life and our day to day, and we might notice it, but we don't really look at it, and go, oh, I had back pain for a week. What's going on? Oh, well, actually, I feel really unsupported right now, or I feel like I'm, running out of money, or whatever it is. It's all connected.
So, Heather, if people want to connect with you and would love to have a color painting done of their soul, do you have to be with them, or can you just do it on like a video Zoom? Or tell me how people can take advantage of what you offer.
Yeah. So when I do a portrait for somebody, I usually ask for a picture. I try not to meet them first. I want to just look at their energy first, and then I will sit with it, meditate on it, start to do the reading. I'll create their painting, and then I'll send an email to schedule a Zoom conference or a video conference so that I can then show you your painting and then tell you all about it. And we'll have an intimate conversation about what I saw and how those colors can be supportive for you. And it's a really beautiful conversation. It's one of those things where, I get to really know who you are based on the colors that I see for you, and leave space for somebody to process through what they hear and ask questions and just kind of understand a bit more about, how those colors are showing up for them. I love that part of I love doing
Oh,
the painting,
yeah.
but I also just love connecting to somebody that way.
I think I want a painting. I can't even imagine. It's probably a mumble jumble of all sorts of different colors, but how fun is that? Yeah.
I'd love
I
to do
have
that for you.
I have a huge painting in my entrance hall that is all sorts of colors. And I just bought it one day at an art auction because it spoke to me about the story of my life. But I would love to have you do one of me. Heather, it's been a delight to have you on the show. And behind the show, of course, anyone who wants to know the links of how to reach out to you, how to follow you on Instagram, how to look at your website, all your contact information is there. If people are just like, wow, I want a color picture of me.
I love that.
That's a beautiful portrait. And you have a gift, I can tell. Because someone who has a little bit of that gift, I can see it in you. And if you're listening to this on only audio, the piece you're missing out is the light that emanates from Heather's face. You are just a beam, a celestial beam of light.
Oh, thank you so much. You make me want to cry. I appreciate you.
And to
Thank you.
connect with you is a true, true honor.
You too, Mary. Thank you so much for having me today.
You're so welcome, and I look forward to hearing comments from all of you listeners back on what you thought of Heather and if you connected with her. Because and when I actually have mine done, I'm going to show it to you, and you'll see what you think, if it's a good thing or not. I think it's going to be fabulous. All right, thank you for being with us today, and all of my listeners. And remember that each single day, there's only one purpose, and the purpose is to be your very best self. And that's all that can be asked of you. Not perfection, just your best self. Be excellent in everything that you touch and do. Namaste.
Crafting a meaningful life.